every day you get to interview one of your favorite influencers. And today I am here on Fake Chats with none other than my good friend Morgan, who is a TPUSA contributor and a social media influencer. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here and just found out that you're one of my biggest supporters. So I am just so appreciative of that.
Well, to start off the interview, share with us a little bit about how you got into social media influencing and the politics side of things.
Yeah, I mean, my story starts way back in like 2016, but I'll give you the abridged version. I've been involved with politics now for about 2 years, and it was really during 2020, during COVID. I was in college, and I ended up dropping out of college and not finishing my mechanical engineering degree because I saw there was just such a necessity in Gen Z to speak out and really save our country from this ideological warfare going on because we constantly had the left attacking conservatives for their views. I faced cancel culture. So I just started posting content online, speaking up about conservative and Christian views, my own personal beliefs. And for some reason, that generated a lot of hate, as you can imagine, and had been banned on TikTok a few times. And that is really what made me realize I need to continue on this path. And I know that God had this designed right for me. So I ended up then working at Turning Point USA as an ambassador before becoming a contributor. And I was a student as well while in university. I was in a part of a Turning Point USA chapter as a student, just really involved in the grassroots movement. And that really is what showed me, wow, I'm not alone. And I want to be somebody that can really be a voice and a light for other young students to be like, hey, you're not alone either. Um, and that was really the first time I felt like I had friends and I had family outside of my immediate biological family, but just other people that were conservative and Christians that I could lean on was really in 2021, 2022. And now being 2024, I have the opportunity and privilege to be able to travel across the country to multiple different high schools and colleges and speak to young conservatives and to empower them and motivate them to continue the fight, because I truly think that Gen Z isn't going to wake up overnight. It's going to take each and every one of us doing something and being a part of that mission.
So, I've heard it said many times that social media is an unnecessary evil. But for like me and you, we're speaking the truth, we're sharing conservative values. How should people that are listening, that are viewing this, how should they be more active on social media when speaking out on things such as conservative values or their
Yeah.
Christian values?
No, I definitely agree with you. It is a necessary evil. I hate TikTok. I've been banned on the app, I think at this point 6 times. But it's one of those platforms where if we aren't even on the platform at all, that is millions of young people, old people that are being completely alienated on a platform by conservatives. So we have to be active on those platforms. One thing I like to say is, us conservatives, we're seed planters. We need to continue to have those conversations and talk about our values and talk about politics in person, especially. You can't censor an in person conversation, but even online, just being involved. We really aren't in a time anymore where we can just sit silently and let the life of the world continue to pass by us like nothing is going to happen, because truly our constitution and our freedom is what's at stake. Democracy is what's at stake, as what the left likes to say, but they're the ones that are actively trying to take that away. So if we continue to not be active on social media or continue to just let life happen right before our eyes, I truly believe that our country will continue to be destabilized. Western civilization will continue to downfall. Society will continue to hit depravity. And so I ask, like, viewers that are like, well, I fear speaking out, I can't do that. It's like, first of all, pray about it. Second of all, what do you have to lose? Because if you're willing to lose freedom over your own societal norms and benefits, I think there's some bigger issues there.
As the viewers and listeners know that listen to this podcast, this is not your everyday Christian podcast. So, the topic that I'm fixing to ask Morgan about is on the political side. But, Morgan, you are a feminist, you are a part of the feminist movement. And no, this is a good thing. It's all good.
Okay.
And,
Are you
and
sure?
yeah, and because I follow Riley Gaines, and one of her
Mm-hmm.
big things is keeping female sports female. Well, on the other side of that, we have people that are now letting transsexuals and homosexuals into women's bathrooms and changing rooms. For you as a woman, how does this make you feel?
Disgusting. There's no reason for a biological man to ever enter a woman's safe space. Riley is one of my personal friends, and she has been one of the largest champions for protecting women's sports and highlighting this issue. I recently was just speaking on a news hit this afternoon about how there are sororities, which are supposed to be women's safe spaces, that are now recognizing men as members and recognizing men allowed to join and changing bylaws. And it really just is hurtful to women to know that there have been so many real women that have fought to have our safe spaces, to have sororities, to have sports. We have Title IX. What's next? Are they going to completely erase Title IX and just allow biological men to take over women's sports? Like, that is not what feminism looks like. And I often ask the question, where are the feminists? Where are the women in this country that claim to be fighting for women's rights? Yet they're completely silent when it comes to men who claim to be transgender women who want to infiltrate women's spaces.
And we've seen this just happen at the Olympics and the wrestling match. I mean, there is no reason for a biological man to ever lay hands on a woman, much
No.
less be able to compete in a sport. When you seen that, what was your first reaction?
I mean, my first reaction was, how could we let this happen? Not just on our national stage, but on the world stage, where a medal, a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal is at stake. How did we allow this DEI to happen on the world stage? And then obviously there's been a lot of controversy about the Olympics, because I know there was also a Taiwanese man that was competing. And then you had the Algerian man who was competing, who has XY chromosomes. It comes down to, this is a safety issue. Why are we allowing someone with these levels of testosterone with XY chromosomes compete in the women's division? I am totally okay with having a transgender division for certain sports if they really want to compete that badly. But when you're taking away a position from a woman who has fought her entire life to compete for not just the national title, but a medal, that just hurts even more. And I know the Italian woman has spoken out about how she was fighting for her father, and she just wishes her father could have watched her in the ring. It's really just heartbreaking. How can we, as a country, as a society, as just Earth, allow this to happen to women?
So, in your opinion, how do you think that women with conservative values, such as yourself, or Christian values, how should they speak out? How should they get more active? How can they get involved?
I mean, I think the first step is look into your inner circles, into your family, and just continue to have outspoken conversations. We can't fear to cancel culture anymore. We can't fear just speaking our minds and knowing we're never going to be experts at every single topic. I'm no expert at every single topic. I know you're probably not an expert at every single topic, but it all comes down to just opening the door to open discussion. Because the whole reason that we're in a country that is facing such big political division and social division is because for so long conservatives remained the quote silent majority instead of actually speaking out and engaging in public discourse. So we have to bring that back, and we have to fight back against big tech and them censoring us. We have to fight back against the higher education institutions that are also silencing conservative students, which I know Turning Point USA, we are doing with our grassroots initiatives and having our chapters on campuses. But even what we are doing isn't enough. It's going to take every single person in our country who loves America to create and make micro sacrifices every single day. I mean, no one said it's going to be easy. Jesus even said being a follower of him is not going to be easy. But we know that what we're talking about is the truth, and the truth matters so much more than having an easy life.
So, you mentioned just a little bit ago that you experience cancel culture yourself in a country where there should be freedom of speech. You know, did it feel at that one time when you first got banned from TikTok, did it feel like your speech had been ripped away from you?
Absolutely. Free speech is not safe in America. I recently did a video that hasn't come out yet asking people, does free speech exist? Do you think it still exists? Are we really living in a free country? And majority of Americans said no, free speech does not exist like it used to. And I think that's really sad, especially living in a country that has a constitution with the First Amendment that gives us that ultimate protection, yet we are facing silencing and cancel culture from not just our peers, but from big tech. And even our government is starting to limit the things we can and can't say, or we feel like we can and can't say them. It's really unfortunate. I definitely will say, like, we need to continue to fight, especially for the First Amendment, because if we don't have the First Amendment, we don't have all the other amendments. Same thing with the Second Amendment. If they get rid of the Second Amendment and take away our arms, and how are we supposed to protect the rest of the amendments? So the First and Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution are vital to protecting America's freedoms.
And the saddest part about it is big tech is sitting there waiting for us to say something so they can just flag something. I got flagged the other day for a comment. I mean, just a simple comment about the white dudes for Kamala. And I'm like, all I said was, it's not even white dudes for Kamala. It's people with other sexes for Kamala. And,
It's
and,
true.
fa- and Facebook sent me up a notification said, we're taking your comment down for hate speech. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'll just go and post it again. What are you going to do?
And they can't do anything. I mean, of course, they can like delete your comments, but we have to continue to fight back. Especially, like, here's the thing: is like, who is controlling the fact checkers? Who is controlling what is and isn't hate speech? Is hate speech free speech? And at the end of the day, it is, because you could say whatever you want. Of course, there's going to be consequences for certain actions, but why are we allowing these non-government organizations, these tech companies, which should be championing free speech within the technological world, but instead they're the ones that are policing speech?
So you had the opportunity recently to speak at the Believer Summit. Share with us a little bit about what you shared about.
That was an incredible event. We were in West Palm Beach with Turning Point USA Faith, and I was speaking on a panel about Gen Z women in faith and in politics and what that is like. The one thing that I highlighted the most was how necessary it is for us women to safeguard the nuclear family and fight back against the modern feminist movement. I'll walk a little bit through that. If we look at what feminism was during the first wave, getting women the right to vote versus now, it has completely changed. The feminist movement today isn't fighting for women's rights, they're fighting for anti-feminine rights. And I like to call them, they say toxic masculinity. I think this is toxic femininity, because instead of actually uplifting other women and empowering women into raising families, being with good men of moral character, really embracing what good morals and values are to raise generations that actually love their country and love their families and protecting Western civilization as we know it, the feminist movement is destabilizing that. They're fighting for abortion, which in killing of millions of babies. They are fighting for feminism and uplifting women through sexual revolution, through having hookup culture and with no repercussions, which we know isn't true. And it really is just such a harmful rhetoric to be pushing towards so many women. And I truly believe that the feminist movement is to blame for the downturn in marriage rates in America and also having the lowest birth rates that we have seen. It's because women have been lied to for decades, saying that the way to have happiness, instead of turning towards the word of God, instead of turning towards family, is instead turning towards society and embracing worldly norms, climbing the corporate ladder. And instead of serving the Lord, instead of serving something bigger than yourself, you serve yourself. That's what feminism is teaching women. So on that panel, I shared a lot about that and just how truly vital to protecting civilization and protecting our society in America as we know it is to continue to safeguard the nuclear family. What better way to do that than us young conservative women to be talking about it to other women and truly empowering other women in that, and B, raising families of our own one day. I hope to be blessed with that opportunity, but that's how we continue to be countercultural, is truly living the life that we were designed to live.
So, what's coming up for you in the near future?
Oh, so much. This semester is about to be really busy. Obviously, it's an election year. We're doing a lot with Turning Point Action, with ballot chasing. Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk is going to be hitting a lot of different campuses, really talking to the Gen Zers, and I will as well. I'm going to be speaking on a bunch of different college and high school campuses leading up to the election and filming a ton of content. Primarily on the East Coast, I'm focusing on going to a couple of the swing states, especially talking to the Gen Z voters, and hopefully, getting some viral content out there to just highlight this is what the political landscape is looking like in 2024.
So, what's your heart's cry for 2024?
My heart's cry for 2024. To win the election. I really think that this is the year that conservatives need to show up at the polls. We can't get comfortable. And I truly believe that the deciding vote is going to come down to potentially the evangelical vote. Statistically, evangelicals haven't gone to the polls, they haven't voted. And I think that this year it really is you're choosing freedom or no freedom at all, which I know sounds dramatic, but really for 2024, before this election, I really think that I just pray and I hope that we can get the voter turnout, which just shows the importance of what Turning Point Action is doing, especially with the ballot chasing initiatives.
A lot of people my and your age, they think that just because they don't vote, they're helping something. But what
Mm-hmm.
they don't realize is, and I've even told somebody this recently, the Democratic Party can take your name if you don't vote and add it to their list and make it a vote for the wrong party. Share your thoughts on that.
I mean, there have definitely been fraudulent elections. There's no doubt about that. I personally believe that. And that just shows the importance of why we can't just live and not go out and vote. It's our civic duty. And I truly believe, like Christians, we are called to be involved. We can't not be involved in our elections because, yes, as a lot of people think, like, oh, my vote doesn't mean anything. But at the end of the day, it does because your vote is a number. You are a citizen of the United States. You have the right to vote. Why wouldn't you vote? And if you're not voting for one person, well, you're basically just adding a vote to the other candidate that you're not selecting. And my question is, like, why wouldn't you vote? What have you got to lose? And to the Christians, especially listening to this, we have to vote for our values. We have to look like which candidate is the most biblically aligned. I'm not voting for a pastor. I'm not voting for a faith leader. I'm voting for a leader who is going to be leading our country and safeguarding our freedoms that we have in America. And I think that's something that a lot of voters need to keep in mind.
And Troy Miller from the NRB recently just shared a new study that came out that said this study also confirms that around only one third of the evangelicals do not participate in election, which means that the voices of evangelicals may be missing by the millions in the
Right.
2024 presidential election. How sad.
It's horrible. It's very sad that evangelical Christians feel like the need to not vote. And I am here to say, that is not the case. We need to vote. And the absence of voting is really just admitting defeat. And instead, we have a fighting chance. And, President Trump has been saying this. It is we need to be too big to rig. And we need to get out and vote. We need to encourage others to vote. We need to chase the ballots because we know that the left is fighting hard and we need to fight back harder.
And the Bible tells us to be wise as serpents
Mm-hmm.
and to be innocent as doves. You can't be wise by not going to the ballot box and not voting. I
And
mean,
and at this point, there's so many ways to vote, right? You got absentee ballots, you have early voting, you have the primary election before the general election. You can go on election day. What is your excuse not to vote?
and please stop saying you're voting for the lesser of two evils because there's one that stands for the godly Christian values and there's one that stands for the ungodly. I mean, it's literally a battle between good versus evil.
It is. It is a spiritual warfare that we are facing in our country, in our worlds, in our lives every single day. And I truly believe that President Trump was saved by the grace of God just a couple of weeks ago. And we as a society have moved on way too fast from that moment and need to recognize that, he is somebody who is willing to take a bullet. He is given up everything because he loves this country so much. And this is really our fighting chance to save our country.
Now, here's the thought. We see shootings that take place at Uvalde and different places all across America, and usually in no time, we know everything about the shooter, who the mom and daddy is, everything about their background. But with this particular shooting, it's like everything has been silenced.
Right. There was no information that came out in a timely manner. I was scrolling on X all day, and that was the only place I could actually get reliable information for what was going on. And it's really not surprising to me. But what is surprising to me is the side or the party that is always chanting for gun control and regulation of firearms, especially banning ARs, banning assault weapons, has been very, very silent all of a sudden ever since that day that happened to President Trump at his rally. They've been very silent. Nobody was calling for the banning of firearms in that case. And instead, when you scroll on TikTok and you were scrolling on some of the more leftist apps, you would see people actually calling, saying, I can't believe they missed. And that was, I think, the most shocking to me is as a conservative woman, if somebody was shooting after Joe Biden, I would never wish death upon somebody. But the other side, I mean, this really just shows the spiritual warfare. I believe personally, it's like the other side is wishing death upon somebody, and it's scary to think about. And I think about the other presidents that have had assassinations or assassination attempts. It's always the ones that are actually fighting for the freedoms.
And what's absolutely disgusting is some of these posts that I've seen about the assassination attempt at Trump, and you report them to Facebook, but Facebook won't take them down. But the moment you comment about the other party, it's like, oh, we're taking this down.
Right. It's the fact checkers.
It just goes to show who all they support.
And we know it's not us, and that's why we have to fight back even harder.
Well, Morgan, it has been a great opportunity to be able to talk to you today. Tell our viewers and listeners how they can find out more about you.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for having me on your show. You guys can find me anywhere on Turning Point USA channels and platforms. And then if you could spell my first name, you can find me. It's just Morgonn everywhere, all platforms.